If losing the 2019 federal election wasn't bad enough, Labor MPs also copped a near-death experience in their heartland Hunter region. In Paterson, Meryl Swanson suffered a 5.7% blow. In Shortland, Pat Conroy lost 5.49%. And most significantly, the election relegated what was once a safe Labor seat held by Mr Fitzgibbon since 1996 to a marginal battleground where just 3% now divides the ALP and the Nationals. With a federal election likely within the next year, Sky News spoke to voters on the ground in the three electorates to hear their thoughts on the party's poor polling performance.
I think at the time there were a couple of things that Bill Shortland said around negative gearing and that, and I think that just impacted across the board.
They've lost their roots that used to be, they used to be for the working class people.
Last November, Mr Fitzgibbon controversially quit shadow cabinet over his own party's climate policy, claiming the party had gone too far left and demanding more loyalty to the coal sector. Down the road, Labor MP Pat Conroy couldn't agree less with his Labor Party colleague, who he shares an electorate border with.
Our policy that we took to the last election wouldn't have impacted on a single coal miner's job. So what Joel is doing is he's diagnosed a false problem and his solution would have us in permanent opposition. If we followed Joel's policy prescriptions, Labor would face electoral oblivion.
Do you think it might be confusing for voters, though, having two people that are in the Labor Party spruiking different information about clean energy?
Well, it might be confusing for people, and that's why Pat Conroy should spend more time agreeing with me.
Labor has committed to a net zero emissions target by 2050. But short term, it's yet to outline a 2030 or 2035 goal. Figures show 84% of Australians want action on climate change. But the Hunter has a number of big employers that are involved with fossil fuel. So how can the parties appeal to growing demands for clean energy while simultaneously ensuring job security? The fact these two neighbouring MPs from the same party have completely different ideas for Labor's energy policy isn't much of a surprise. In Shortland, Pat Conroy only has to appeal to 1,000 coal-employed voters. But in the Hunter, there's 5,500 directly employed by the industry.
So if he's down the road and he has one Labor idea and you have a different idea here in Shortland, I guess for voters that's fairly confusing as to what Labor's climate policy and energy policy would be.
Well, obviously mixed messages are making it harder for people to understand what we're arguing for, but what Joel has put forward is not Labor policy. He's a backbencher. In fact, he's our most junior backbencher at the moment, so he's entitled to his opinions, but they're not Labor policy.
Pat Conroy and I and the Australian community want the same thing. Surely, we want an orderly transition to a cleaner economy, but we want to get there without unnecessarily destroying existing jobs. And if Pat Conroy has a different view, well, he's welcome to say so.
On the ground, most people Sky News spoke to were supportive of renewables. The polarising issue is how fast the transition away from fossil fuel and towards greener energy is.
We still need coal and industry, and we can't get rid of everything.
Well, you've got to go renewables. Coal's ancient history.
Coal.
Why's that?
Jobs, 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 jobs.
I think we've got to go renewables as fast as possible.
The Coalition is hoping their 2019 performance has put them in the box seat to seize seats here in the Hunter.
I've no doubt that Scott Morrison sees opportunity here, and I welcome the attention.
We need to become a swinging seat so we can actually get more things for the area.
Charlotte Mortlock, Sky News, Muswellbrook.